Alright, welcome back everyone, Mark Sejan here again, and we will use Rigify for today and rig a character and animate it and test it. Just a general thing to introduce into animation of character. So here we are. Of course we need the 3D mesh, so file and importing a 3D mesh that was already prepared. This is a solid, watertight, there's no holes, it's one consistent mesh. The only exception is the eyes. The eyes are attached, and those are spheres attached separately, but there's no shirt, clothing, whatever on it. This is one works best with Blender if you have something that's fairly solid and you don't have parts or it's not chopped up. You can do it, but it's much harder, or you may need to use plugins for skinning. Okay, so that's where we are. First of all, let me show and see if we have a texture attached, because we have a material library with the obj file. So yes, the color is there, but this is way too glossy. So let me go to the shading and look for the actual materials. So by clicking away and selecting the model, it's even if you see it here, it's a good idea to click on the model to make sure that this one is updates, because sometimes it works oddly. So specularity is the overall power of the specular highlights. If we reduce it, it will be a little bit less glossy, and we can also increase the roughness, and now we have a more skin type tone look. Okay, that's fine. Let me go back to the layout and see what's going on here. First of all, because we want to rig this character, we want to make sure that everything is matching. So for that, I will check the units. So scene properties, units, and set it to centimeters. And of course, we don't need a cube. Let me delete this one, go to the front viewport by numpad 1. And check the overall size. I don't know about the size of anything yet, so I will just start dragging. And yeah, this is about 10 meters, so this figure is huge. This should be about 2 meters. That's somewhat reasonable to have a wrestler figure like this, about 2 meters. Okay, so let me select the guy, use the scale, and just scale it down until it fits. So it's somewhat 190, which one is reasonable. Okay, and of course we don't need this guy anymore, so I've just clicked on it and highlighted and deleted. Yeah, we can go back to transformation mode and look for the left view, or sorry, right view. And for left view, yes, this is it, Control 3, and in the top position. So I'm looking for just the alignment to make sure that when I'm doing the reset, it looks okay and looks dead center. So Control A, and all transforms will be reset, which one is great. Okay, we are good. Now we are ready to create the meta rig that will help us to go through Rigify. But with Rigify, if you don't have it enabled by default, you can go into Edit, Preferences, look for add-ons, look for Rigify, and turn this on. Rigify is now active. Okay, so what does it mean? If we are going to the front viewport, we will be able to just crank out a rig. So Shift A, and this will be a very basic rig without any facial bones and fingers, just for practicing the stuff and to speed up the process a little bit, because the basics are the same practically. So we have a basic layout here and basic human meta rig. Alright, now this is as it is created. Now this is buried inside the 3D mesh, and of course we want to see it. So go to the stick figure and look for viewport display and turn on in front. So now we have it, and we're still in object mode, and right away I will see that I can change the overall length of it. So I'm using S and scale it down to somewhat fit better. I'm looking for now the clavicles and the head. That's just one thing, and yeah, overall the hips are in somewhat better position. Okay, that sounds great. And now we can select any of the bones, any of the model, and we can go to edit mode. Of course, you can use Control Tab and just simply tab as well to switch between various modes. Okay, there we are. So what else? The first thing is we can do this symmetrically. So before we are going crazy and moving things apart away, we can turn on the top right symmetrical movements, and of course you can select multiple elements at a time and just move it in the right position, and just move it in the right position. Oops, and or rotate. I'm using rotation. Oh, I've accidentally created these bones, and of course I should pay attention to it. So let me try to undo it until G. Yeah, okay, so no extra bones. This is a metric, so this one is used for just setting up the final solution. Scale, ops, G. We can select the end bone, the tip, and just moving the joints. Be careful with the shoulder. If you pull it too high, this whole mesh will just suffer because of the deformation. That would be too much, so put it somewhere in here. Alright, look for the top viewport. So G, a little bit behind. This one is somewhere in the center, and there is a little bit of an angle, because for IK that works really nice. So just keep that in mind. Here, according to the thumb, there should be the wrist. Okay, this one looks good. Let me go back to the front viewport and check for the legs. So here we are, and G moving the whole thing away. I mean the whole thing, and I'm looking for the parts. Okay, now as you see, there is an angle here with the feet, and of course the movement, it has a planar orientation of the movement. So when this limb moves, the knee will travel on a specific direction. So to make sure that I can maintain it, I will use rotation and rotate the whole limb as one unit. Okay, so now everything is slightly rotated. And going from the bottom view, Control numpad 7, and looking for the orientation, which one's looking promising. Alright, let me go to the front viewport, selecting this knee in the front. The hip sockets. Be careful, don't stay with these outside, because we are following anatomy and not the visuals only, so that should be somewhere there. If you place it in an odd position, you will see the effect in deformation. My advice is to test it. It's really easy with using automatic weights. So just save a file, apply automatic rigs, then go back, remodel or repose the rig, and then you can go forward, and you'll pick up experience with this quite soon. Okay, control number 3, and yes, there we are. So this one should be in front, and this one is a little bit behind, and this one is here. So we are maintaining a slight angle here, and just because I'm using the transform gizmo, it doesn't mean I cannot use the G hotkey. And ankle, perfect. Selecting this guy and going back on a horizontal manner, so that would be the heel. And this is the ball of the feet, but we can select the whole thing and moving it to the bottom, and start from somewhere here, and only horizontally extend. Alright, maybe this one should be a little bit more at the back. There's a slight angle, looks good from the front. Let me check back again. Maybe this was a little bit high, So here's the elbow, I'm sorry, the kneecaps. There we are, looks good. Fine, okay, so arms, legs are okay. Now what else? Going with the pelvis, with the front. And right now, because I'm in the front view, I'll pay attention to it. Don't want to move it anywhere on the side, just up and down. So I'm moving it to the bottom position. Check it from the left side, right view. Okay, selecting this and pin the hips. Okay, so just pin the hip volume. Alright, this is mostly to maintain the shape of the figure and make it believable that we have a hip. Alright, there we go. Now the breast controls. Again, front view, highlight it and press G to move it to the location. Left, maybe we can use a scale and use G and G on the y-axis. Okay, sounds good. Yes, it is. Maybe too much outside, so we can pull this back a bit. Alright, that is convincing. Okay, so there we are. Now we are moving forward with the smaller bones. Clavicle, for example, and just moving it to the front. Now this, it's hard to establish a good position. So when you have something that's hard to interpret where to place it, just rotate it around, and that helps a lot. I think the center, the start is okay. Maybe if we press G and in the top view, we move it closer to the shoulder. How does it looks? Okay, it seems to be fine. Maybe a little bit of elevation here, a little bit of placement there. This looks convincing. Okay, that's fine. There we are. Maybe this was slightly higher, just for avoid too much of a stretch on the up part. Looks fine. And here comes the neck area. So I will go with a little bit of a reverse engineering. So let me select this. This is actually the very end of the spine. So this should be one continuous line, and we will see why. But right now I'm just selecting the end of the spine. Theoretically, so thoracic spine, the end of the thoracic spine, and this is where the neck area starts from here. So we can actually break continuity here for a short second. Okay, it's hard to see. Now I'm not in an orthographic view, so I'm very much paying attention on moving only on the z-axis. Okay, so pulling this down as well. And my main goal is to give some room to the neck, because we actually, I'm sorry, the head bone, because actually we don't have too much of a neck going on here. So this is the head. Move it back in here, and there should be a slight angle to make it believable. This one looks fine, and here it is. We can pull this in, and that's it. Okay, now once we have this, before we attach the Rigify process, or we hit on Rigify generate rig, we have to make sure that everything is reset. So we can go to object mode and Ctrl A and reset the scale. Okay, we don't want to reset everything else, just the scale is enough. And go back to actually we can hit on generate rig right away. So generate rig, and here's an error that you may receive quite often at the beginning. So what happens, because on purpose, but usually it happens unintentional, so it's easy to break the line by moving the neck bone here. And what you see here, these two should be exactly in the same position. So what you can use, we can use the 3D cursor to fix this. Fairly easy, and we will do just like that. So to fix it, select the element, go back to edit mode, sorry. And select this very end and Shift S to cursor to selected, then select the other end, Shift S and selection to cursor, and now this is snapping. If we press Shift C, it will go back, the 3D cursor will go back to the origin, and we can zoom into the areas. Now this one is fully done. Alright, and we can give it a try to do the same process, regenerate rig. Okay, so let me see if it works fine. And here we go. This is our rig. Now this one is really nice. There we are. Of course, we have to turn on in front to be able to see the whole thing. And the matte rig is not really coming into play now, so we can turn that off. And this is basically the rig we have. You may think that it is done, but not. We have to tie the 3D mesh to the freshly created armature. Now to do that, select the 3D mesh, hold down the shift key and select the rig. Now we are in object mode. We can go to pose mode, and in pose mode where you see the colors, that's the pose mode, and you also have to see the highlights in a darker orange. So that's where we are, and then press Ctrl P, and what we can do is we are using armature deform, and with empty groups it will just assign read the names of the bones, and it will just prepare the structure for you if you want to manually paint the whole stuff. With envelope weights it's a little bit different way to achieve the weight in system. Sometimes that's good, sometimes not, but usually we're using automatic weights and make corrections afterwards. If you're just using a very, again, simple, solid, watertight meshes. Alright, so with automatic weights, and it will take some time to be done, but now this is okay. So first of all, usually it's a good idea to save it as it is. This is what I will do, just a sec. Okay, so I saved it, and it's time to test. Now this one, and if you don't know what it is, this one is combining IK and FK rigs for all limbs. That's the first thing, and the third different type is the tweak bones. So we have IK bones, we have FK bones, and we have tweak bones. Now this generates a plethora of controls and bone layers. So this is why we have this. If you press letter N, we have this headwaters that uses to show hide some of the controls. Okay, let me quickly go through the structure. So we will use in this course for today, we will use the legs in IK controls. So now, just for testing basically the animation, I will start the, okay, I need a graph editor, keying on, and the first key I will just select everything and hit I and choose all to have a key, turn on normalize, and then I will go to the 15th frame or 10th frame, make sure that this was not too big, so 330, and just hitting zoom. So there we are, practically there we are. So now all of the elements are keyed and we can start playing. So here we are, and just using transformation I can pull this up and pull it forward, and I can test how this thing is working. So as you see, it affects the back of the body in a good way. We can turn on the wires because that can help a lot on understanding the deformation. Alright, so this is fairly nice. Okay, I like the crotch as it goes. And good news, this is not a retopologized mesh. This mesh was generated by QMesh, or you can do the same thing from ZBrush. Basically, it's a fairly easy sculpt, and nothing crazy. Okay, so that's the first thing at 10 frame. Now we have this. We have other controls like the various yield controls. So let me test that. This one looks awesome. Okay, so you can see this is really important for stepping. And these tweaks are doing this. You can just stretch out, use the power of the bendy bows to fine-tune the whole scene that you have. Alright, and of course you can use Alt G to reset those. Alt G, and it's true for everything. Okay, what else? Here is the torso, and please pay attention to these names on the top left, because these are just really telling and helpful. Now, as you see, because we are using IK controls now, this whole torso, when it's moved, the legs and the hands are pinned, and this is true for a standard IK control. Now, what's the difference if you haven't heard of IK or FK? So IK is inverse kinematics, FK is forward kinematics. The standard natural movement is forward kinematics. When you are using inverse kinematics, what happens? Your hand, palm, feet become a target, and when the target is moving, then everything has to follow according to reach to that position. So here's a target. It will try to maintain the position, and no matter what, it's automatically calculated where the elbow is. Now, this thing is the easiest way to understand is if you are riding a bicycle and you're grabbing a handlebar of the bike. Now you are in IK. So where the handlebar moves, or when you're touching a wall, leaning against the wall, and your palm is on the wall, and your body is moving, to maintain contact with the wall or the handlebar, your elbow will bend, your body will rotate, but you still maintain the control. Now that is IK. Now when you don't have it, when you don't touch something, for example, you're punching or reaching out to something, and your hand is just in the air basically, then usually you are in FK. And with a rig like this, you can animate if this happens, if something is turning like that. Okay, so let me move on forward with the head and rotate it around and see for myself. Okay, we can have the shoulder controls as well, so now we can play with that. Alright, this is quite aggressive, looks interesting. Alt R. We have a chest control. Where it is, it's hard to grab, but there we are, and looks great. Okay, now what else? We can animate the FK and IK too, and I will do that, and we can switch between those, but right now this is fine. Now here it is that you may notice. So I haven't changed anything with the basic setup. Nothing is turned off, nothing is changed. I was using these planes in the end, so nothing inside the chain. Now this happens because when you're using IK, you're basically operating like a marionette. So you have the strings attached to the endpoints of the limb, and this is how you move it. But when you're using FK, you are animating like a puppet, and with a wire puppet. So that means you are actually selecting, grabbing the arm and tilt it, turn it, whatever. Now this rig, because we have two rigs, one is for the IK and one is for the FK. When the FK rig is not used, it will not automatically follow the motion of yours. So if you want to make it follow, then you can go with FK to IK hand R. So when you press that, it is actually generating a key and animating the whole thing and moving it to match to the pose. This will become handy. We will not use it for now, but this is handy when you are, for example, you have a phone ringing on the table. You start animating with forward kinematics, then when you're reaching to the phone, you want to switch to IK because your hand is now leaning on the table and picking up the phone. So what to do is you have to make sure that at the position when you're reaching out the phone, the IK and FK are matching. So you can use this, either match the IK to the FK position, current position in the 3D space, or the opposite situation. So that's how we use. And the way to switch is animated by the IK, FK, and R value. So if this one is 0, that means IK system is working. If this one is 1, that means you are using the forward kinematic system, and as you see, now the IK remains as it is, in opposite with this hand, because this one is still not switched. All right, that's how we do it. Okay, so now sounds good. This basic movement is nothing special, but it is just good enough to see how skinning is working. All right, now don't forget that I have saved my file. So if you have a tendency to crash or something, or you're not, super familiar with the whole stuff, it's a good idea to save before you going into another step. Okay, now what about weight and weight painting? What's the concept behind it? Okay, let me go to object mode and select the 3D mesh and go to weight paint. Now the way to do it is Control and Tab and use weight paint, but as always, if you're not familiar with these, you can switch between the standard processes. If you don't see weight paint as an option, that you may happen to be selecting still the rig. So if you're in the rig mode, there is no weight paint. All right, sometimes it's a little bit confusing, but there we are. And here it's not always handy if we see the wires, so I will just turn this off. Wireframe, turn this off, and this was great. Now, when we are switching to weight mode, it's so generous of the software that we are switching to vertex groups. So these vertex groups are named in an odd way. Def means these bones are meant to be deforming the mesh. So every bone will have this extension of def. The naming convention is pretty easy to follow. The only thing that's a little bit unusual that we have no head bones. So basically this is a structure, a line of spine. So spine, the first one, it's here. Spine 1, spine 2, spine 3, and spine 4. There we are. And we have spine 5, this one is the neck, and spine 6, this one is the head. Okay, now for the head, I have an issue, and that is that I want to make sure that the eyes are actually moving with the bone. I don't care if there's a little bit of a stretch and the face is stretching out, which one, in this case, it looks nice. So I don't worry about that. But what I want to do is want to paint and make corrections. And you can start painting right away, but be careful because, there is symmetry in here. Okay, let me select again breast. So going back up. And just because it's a little bit odd, but just because you press undo, sometimes it's going back to a different vertex group selection as well, not just undoing the paint. Okay, so let me turn on X. And this is what happens. This one is really, really cool. That even if you are in the 3D position, the X working as left to right and calculates based on the first position. So what people don't really do, and I don't see too many tutorials, is this kind of a setup pose or something that the testing, the torture test for skinning, because this will give you a lot of feedback and you don't have to switch back and forth. You're just basically just moving along with the slider and see if the deformation is okay or not. You can actually bend the fingers, form a fist. You can create a whole lot of different test movements, and it helps you a lot in the long run, and you don't run into bumps. Okay, so just going back to the principles, let me just make sure that everything is tied to this vertex group. which one is the spine 6. So now I'm using a weight that has one value. Right click will bring you the same weight, radius, and strength. F is about the radius, and Shift F is about the strength, and Control F is about the weight. Okay, so if you want to use the hotkeys, you can use that, or right click and slide it down. If you want to use a kind of a negative paint, so you want to reduce the influence by cooling the effect, then you can use the 0 value. Now, if you don't know anything about weight painting, what weight painting does is every bone has an aura, has an influence, a halo, and this influence defines how much the vertices are tied to the bone, are binded to the bone. Where you see a darker red color, that means those vertices, that area, those points are fully sold and fully binded to the bone. So when the bone moves, they will flow in respect. When you have, let me go back to the first. So when you have a kind of a transition zone where you see these little lighter blues, that means those vertices are still affected, but not affected that much. Okay, so that's what we do. Okay, more than that, this is a really nice thing, but usually it would generate kind of a hard result. I'm using a mouse for this, but of course you can use a pen tablet. So what else we can do? We have a very neat feature. We can actually just use a blur, and that is blurring out the weighting. Now here, please be sure that this one is, you understand this was not a map with colors. Colors are only representing the values that each of the vertices have. So what does it mean? The influence is, if it's fully red, that means influence is 1. If you have a full blue color, that means influence is 0, so it's not affected. Everything in between is represented by the color. Now, when you see something is not blurry, something is a little bit jaggy as an edge, that means that area has a huge difference. So, for example, if I'm painting with a different, oh yeah, we are in blur. So if I'm painting with a blue, here, this area, this is a lot of drastical changes. But when I'm going with the blur, that means it tries to even the influence and make it a more balanced deformation. Okay, so the more gradient colors you have, the more nicer colors you have, that means it's more soft, more gradient, more true to the natural deformation. Okay, so here we are. Let me test this. All right, working fine. Eyes are there, and the face, the top part of the face is not stretching too much. Let me look at the elbows. So what we have here, we have some natural looking deformations. Okay, even if it's not 100% perfect, it's fairly good if you see this compared to with an average weight. I think it's a good result. So Blender is good in this. It's not really good if you have some multi-part meshes, but it's really good if you have a single watertight mesh. All right, that's it. So what I will do, I will go back to the first keyframe. Leave weight painting mode, go to object mode, and before starting the animation, a few things I will do just to prep the whole thing is, first, we don't need any keyframes now, so I will just hold on for a second, make a quick save. So to clean up and start with the animation, we need to select the armature, go to pose mode, select all. Now everything is visible, so all the various layers are visible. Everything here, all the settings, everything's there. Here, rig layers, so everything's on. and select the keys and delete. And if we want to make sure everything is going back to the setup pose, Alt R, Alt G, and Alt S. So now this is kind of an initial state. For now, everything has and received a key by resetting the stuff. And of course, we want to turn this to FK. So the hand is moving FK, the legs are moving IK. To make that turn, make that switch, we are selecting the IK control of a hand and switch the IK FK slider at the very top. This should be the first one, if I'm right. Yeah, this is the first one, and set it to 1. So what does it mean? If you start moving this around, it will not move the 3D mesh, but when you're selecting the green things, it is actually capable to bend now the arms, and that green bones are belonging to the FK system. Okay, so this is a left arm, this is the figure's left arm, it's not the director's left. So arm L IK is turned off. We can also turn off arm L tweak bones, alright, so we don't need them yet. Okay, so here we are, same thing in the other side. IK control is selected, and we are switching this IK FK hand. So now this is already switched to 1. So what does it mean? This should work already. So what I will do, I will select this guy and maybe view tool. No, there's no axis. Great. Okay, so that's where we are, and we can hide this away. So arm R IK, it's not needed, and the tweak is not needed. So if everything's fine, we can actually just move this down and move this down as well a little bit to achieve a somewhat neutral pose. Okay, that will be great. Now what else? We definitely need no torso tweaks at this moment. That's fine. And going to the bottom parts. So what else? The root, we are not animating the root. This will be a simple straight out walk. So that root is turned off. And we don't need no tweaks for the bones, and we need no FKs in this case because IK will be used. Again, we are using an IK system to create the walk. Yes, in some cases you want to switch within IK and FK when you are creating a walk, but this will be a simple one. We don't have to animate too much when the feet is in the air. Okay, now let's start with the first thing. We are now dealing with the legs at the beginning. Okay, I don't care about the arms, just the legs, just to make a simple walk. Now this walk will happen on the 16th. So what does it mean? Because the 16th frame on the first and the 17th frame, that will be the first main poses. That will be the contact pose, the first contact pose, and the second contact pose. And there will be a third contact pose where with the other side, and that will be a 33. Again, so we are animating on 16 plus 1 because we're starting at frame 1. Now there we are, going to the left viewport in this case, and this leg will be pushed forward. What I have selected is the Feud IK R, and auto key is on, and I will push it in forward in order to move it. And of course we need to use the angle control and the ankle control, ankle angle, and now this leg is lifting up. So again, this is the contact pose where the weight of the body is not entirely placed on the feet. Okay, this is a brief moment in time where you're just creating a snapshot where both legs are somewhat in the movement, in a move. So, and I'm doing this carefully, okay? I'm not going crazy. I'm just looking for the right look to create a somewhat balanced stride. So that's what I do. And nothing is animated, basically only the platforms. This is the platform. This one is not touched, but this one is already keyed because I've used the key. But I can do it, the same thing here. Rotation and location, that's enough. We don't need scale. worry about the scale too much. And the heel controls, these are animated, and the torso, which one is the cube? Okay, so there's minimal tools. Let me go back again to the view, to the side. Looks great. Maybe if I can move it forward. Yep, but okay, so if I'm moving forward, can you see the knee? So if I move forward too much, it starts stretching. If I'm moving it back, you will see a point where it starts actually bending. Okay, so if you don't want the knees to pop all the time, you want to try to maintain that range of motion, so you're not reaching out too much, and this can generate a somewhat natural movement. All right, so try to avoid that, to stretch out too much if not a necessity, because we are creating a basic walk and not anything that's crazy. All right, that's it. Looking from the front view, let me press number 1, and of course it's way too wide, so because it is again a very standard type of movement, we should actually take care of this and pull the legs more into this center position. Okay, there we are. Now it's time to move to the next pose. Again, this is a contact pose, and we will move to the next pose, but just to make things a little bit easier in the future, we can right away just handle the arms a bit. So nothing crazy going on. I'm just selecting the upper arm and pulling this back. There's no crazy animation here. I'm just looking for a right balanced kind of distribution of the body, so this is somewhat believable as a hand position. If it's too much, then usually that indicates the figure is in a hurry and try to gain momentum by swinging the arms more heavily. But based on the stride, it's a simple walk. And also the speed, the 16 frame, it's not the fastest walk, so there's no reason to pull these arms like back like this, for example. Okay, another thing that when we are rotating now, it's not that big of a deal, but when you are fine-tuning the motion, it's a good idea if you're using the local mode, and sometimes you have to switch between local and global. All right, to keep that in mind. I will tell about this, but right now I was just swinging back. That was easier in a global mode because it's back and forth, but technically what you have to take care of is these axis type of movements. Okay, first, that's right. Now we're moving to the 17th position, which one is our actual second contact pose. So let me go back to the left view. And here we already have a key for this frame, and I will move this forward. Right now I'm in global mode and just moving this forward, and this will be changed. The heel will be actually up in the air, so I'm completely changing up the pose of the leg and pulling this up in the air. Maybe this one could be able to move forward a little bit more. And of course this platform, again, the platform itself, even if it shows the center of the transform gizmo in a different location, that's what we have. And I'm pulling this in front, and yeah, we are now playing ballet here, so we have to switch this, pull this back, move it in front a little bit more, and just meticulously trying to catch on the right thing. Okay, there we are. Maybe move a little bit more. But I was talking about the stretch. Can you see how this is the moment when the IK is actually starting to catch up? Okay, that's right. So if we are going back from 0 to 17, this is what happens. Now we have a kind of a nice basic walk, and the feet are sliding. Okay, so nothing crazy. And maybe this one should have a little bit more turn, ups, wrong direction. Yes, in order to make sure that the knees are actually working properly. Okay, so that's it. That's it. All right, we will animate the hips hate, of course, but right now we are just walking along, creating the timeline for us, and that's how we go. Okay, and between these two, now it's time to first of all switch the arms. And now to easily switch those, we can select this one and press Ctrl C. The cursor is in the 3D viewport, so pressing Ctrl C, it copies the position, the keys, and everything of this particular thing. And if I'm pressing Ctrl V, it will just replace the existing, so there's nothing changing basically. But if you press Ctrl Shift and V, that's paste opposite. So now the other hand has the same position as this one. We can go back to the very first keyframe, select now this one, Ctrl C, and move to the 17th keyframe. Which one is, again, you can use the arrows on the on your keypad and Ctrl Shift and V and paste it to the opposite. Which one is right now? Here we go. So what we have is this simple stride. Okay, really robotic. We have to work on this, but that's kind of a good initial position now. Okay, so what's next? Ideally, we have a passing pose. So when we are looking from the left, this is what happens. From the first keyframe, this whole thing is moving forward, but the feet is actually not elevated. It's not lifted up, and of course the body is moving fully horizontally, which one is just not ideal in all cases. So what we will do at the 9th frame, I will just go in here and create the passing pose for the leg. So which leg needs to be used that passing pose? This is what moves. Okay, so the front one is planted. So we are going actually the right viewport and lift it up. I'm using G because I'm in orthographic mode, and R because, again, orthographic mode. And as you see, as I lift it up, I'm just barely hovering over the ground. Okay, just barely hovering over the ground. The human machine is really effective at trying to avoid any extra movement that consumes energy. So this is how we can become so effective. So what we can do now, this one is recorded, so if we play this, we have now a nice lifted position. Okay, that's how it goes. So basically that is one stride. We can generate the others as well. Okay, so what's next? We need a another contact pose at 33. So that's the end, the final frame. Let me go to the left viewport and see what we have. So at the final frame, we want this leg to be planted. Not just there, but also at the 17, we have to have that leg planted, location and rotation to make sure we have it. We have animated, so there's a key generated, but if you are not sure, in these razors, you can always plant the key. Okay, this one also have a key here, and this platform also need a key. There is no key yet for this one, okay, because we haven't touched it. Only the first frame, it has a key because that was the starting pose, but no key since that. So now I choose location and rotation. Okay, and the same thing here. Do we have a key? Yes, we do. All right, so at 33, going back, and because right now I can use the shift and right arrow, and that will actually land me on the last frame, and because on purpose I was setting it to 33, I don't have to worry about too many things now. So here we are. This leg is planted. This one should be forward, so what I will do is just move it forward, and the same thing with the hips. So the hips are there, and we have to animate the heels, and I think the heel, it has a key at 17, which was great. So now I can just move it this way. All right, I think the stride is a little bit less, so I will just pull it a little bit more. Maybe this was a little bit more as well, and see for myself. So what we do here, well, yeah, we have to make sure that the passing pose will work okay. At 17 is working fine. At 25, that will be your passing pose, and this looks like it's a little bit fast, and something is off with the speed, so we will work that out, make a correction. Okay, just let me play this and see. Okay, as you see, the hips are moving odd with this because we have an acceleration on that as well, but looking for the legs, what's going on? All right, yes, we have this roll a little bit off, and it's not, we have missing the passing pose. Okay, so it's time to clean up the passing pose, but before we do that, it's easier if you are dealing with the hands right now. So at Ctrl C, going perspective, so this one at 33, this was passed to the opposite, and going back to 17, Ctrl C, and at 33, this one is passing to the opposite. So now we have the hand change. Okay, let me see it. All right, and it's really robotic, and the reason why it's robotic is we still have to maintain and create the passing pose. So let me go back to that. Which one is the leg that lifts? This leg is moving. So this is the leg that moves. So at 25, I need to be aware of this, pulling this back a bit. Select this leg, lift this up, and rotate it as well. Okay. And there we are. All right, so let me see it. And you will see a kind of speed issue with the hips. We'll fix that just soon. Okay, but the legs are actually walking fairly convincing. We have to fix the contact and the passing poses there, but for now we have a more important issue, and that is the speed of the torso. Now, to get to that, here are the keys, and because we are using auto keys now, so many keys are created, and sometimes we don't need that many. Okay, what is we are looking for? We are looking for actually the green axis, local movement. So for that, let me turn off all these Watanian and other rotations. What else? We need a location, namely only the Y location. So let me turn off the visibility of these others, and we can work on that. But right now, this is what happens. So it starts moving, and let me hit on A to select all the keys. Hit on the numpad dot, and that will zoom us in. And because I'm using normalize, it will show a little bit of a better curvature that's easier to see what's going on. You can see this acceleration, that causes trouble. So that's what we have as an issue. So I will just highlight these keys and delete them. Now it's even, but we still have acceleration issues. And right now, we don't need any type of acceleration. It's like a continuous movement. So I'm selecting these, pressing V and going to vector. So now this is a straight type of progression. So if, when you play this down, back, now it's an even walk. Okay, very sterile because it's just simply hovering over. There's no hate movement, nothing. But the legs are actually convincing. The rhythm and the pace is good. So this one worth to fine tune. All right, now, so how to fine tune this? First things first, we can fine tune how the leg is actually, the heels are actually moving, alright? Because that's not the easiest all the time, but right now that could generate a nice difference. Okay, so let me go back to this view and look for the passing pose and contact pose difference. Okay, so here we are. We're starting out from the first, and this one, this toe is still up in the air, but the weight is already above the foot, okay, that particular foot. So what we have to do is animate this now and reset it. So now this is right away down. So starting the animation, and that's already down. I don't know if it's too fast, so maybe on the third keyframe. Yeah, but that should be fine. So Alt R, all right, and let me go back and look for this. All right, it's bending. Here, you can see, do we need to bend it up? No, we want to actually maintain that standard position. So at 9, this should be still. So we're going there, it's up, and then we start bending. And the same thing happens here with the other leg. So here we are. 17 is our contact pose. 3 frame, it's a 20. And at 20, this was already should be placed and kept in the bottom. And at 25, this is our passing pose. And on a passing pose, you could be sure that this needs to be 100% planted on the ground. So Alt R, because this is the supporting leg now, and we are moving forward. Okay, that's going back, and this process is the same. So let me see this tiny change, what it made. All right, so let me play this. All right, that's it. So this is actually just going pretty well. Now, there is an issue with the knees. So this leg, for example, this has a kind of a pop here. That's a little bit of a stretch, that pull back, that pop. That is happening because the hips should move with the body. So when the overall bone structure is in this position, then the hips need to go lower. Okay, so let me go again to the left viewport. And there we are. And now I'm just pushing this slightly in. Okay, not much, just a slight. And on the top left, pay attention to this. So on the top left, it will tell you how much you move. And you can actually use Control, or you can use Shift to make it very, very meticulously adjusted. Okay, so if you wish, which one? I was dragging the wrong axis. Or you can use actually Control and just simply go by the start moving and using the Shift and watching the value. It's about 2 centimeters, so it's not much. It's really not much. And in the passing pose, which was at 9, I will give it back. So pulling back, start using the Shift key and pulling back at about 2 centimeters. That's it. So here we are at 17. Again, this is a contact pose again. So I'm using moving, starting, and holding down Shift key to be adjusts about 2, which was great. So now there is a very, very soft movement. So at 25, this was again pulling this up about 2 centimeters, nothing more. And at 33, it's going back on drop. Okay, so I've elevated on the passing poses as well. That may be too much, so let me see it, and this may make the figure a little bit more no, but that looks nice. Okay, so that was okay. So now we have a little bit of a curve going on with the movements. Okay, perfect. Look for the Z location. So this is where we are. This is the Z location on here. If we wish, we can actually just match these, or you can copy paste the keys if you want to be exactly on the same level. For example, because you want to loop something. So here we are, 33. We can place Ctrl V. That's it. All right. So that's a natural rhythm. What else we can do? Of course, the whole thing is moving sideways as well and leading as well. Now, in general, when you are progressing forward, the faster you progress, the more you will lead. And just to make it look natural, it's better if we are just going back and using a little bit of a lead, and the figure is just simply bending slightly forward. If it's too straight up, then it's not really making any good. All right, so there's a little bit of a change. Let me close the rig. Now you will be able to see a little bit better and play this. Okay, and it's going back, so I want to maintain that location change or rotation change. This was a red rotation, so that is about yep, X rotation. So there we are, and then this was going back, so it starts from here, but it's going back. So I will just delete these keys to maintain, oh, not all, but just these, and maintain that rotation. So now we have that single rotation as is. All right, which one is great? What else do we care? Let me play this. Of course, we care about the frontal weight shift. The slower the speed, the more the weight shift is. So if we are going to the front viewport and looking for the passing poses, which one is 9, then we have to just slightly move it away. Okay, so we are just moving this away, and maybe a little bit of a tilt can help us. Alright, I'm looking for the values, and a little bit of a tilt is there as well. Okay, so that's fine. It's Ctrl C. Let me copy this, and moving to the, it's going back already. We have quite a few keys that is not behaving the right way. Okay, so this is one rotation. Also, we need movement and clear that up. So these movements, some of the movements on the red axis, that is where we are. That's the X location. So X location keys I will just turn off and select them and delete these X location keys. Alright, so this is where we are now, and at 17 we are going back to normal. So I will press Ctrl C, Ctrl V, so it's going back in the position. And about rotation, that is the green rotation, so Y rotation. Same thing here, we are picking up the original. Let me turn this off. Ctrl C and Ctrl V. So this is how it goes now. Alright, starting. And then we have 17, that is a contact pose, which was great. And we have 25, and in 25 we have that same location as we have at the 9th frame. So this should be at 9, G and X, move it 1 frame forward. And we have the X location. X location is also a bit off, so let me select the G and X and move it on 1 frame. So we have to keep copies of these positions in other moments of the walk. So first of all, here we are. This key is placed. We are actually creating a 25. We are creating another rotation. So that is the movement rotation. So there we are, and just shift this. So that's another rotation. There we are. We can actually copy this and Ctrl Shift V in here. So there we are. And see if it goes. Front. There we are. Turns on. And here we want to straighten the body. So for that, I will copy this frame and paste it in the end. So there we are. Now this is a kind of a slight rotation stuff. Here we have rotation, but I don't know if we have the location change as well. But these two were copied, these frames, so that will work fine for now because they were both visible and I can select both of the keys at the same time. So there we are. That is about the torso body. We can change more things, but it's time to look at the hands because honestly, if we are going back to the very first, these hands should have more life. So to do that, in the first frame, we can just rotate it slightly, maybe twist the hands a little bit, and just use a kind of a effective sway. So now the hands are a little bit more delayed. Okay, we don't need to go very crazy with this, but that happens. And we can actually pull this back behind. Alright, so it's not that away from the body as like you show it in front. Okay, so look at here, this angle is a little bit closer to the body. But when you make that, then you have to make sure that the passing pose will allow the hand to move a little bit further from the body to reduce that kind of a friction. So that's what I will do, is I will go to the 9th keyframe, and on the 9th keyframe I will do a review of this and just pull this out a bit more and give some room to this whole thing. Maybe I will switch to a global mode now, and it's a little bit easier to track the whole thing. And this one is now rotating, and that should be happening in global mode, local mode. And just pulling it back and rotate it here. And maybe this one needs a rotation in here. Okay, that's right. So this is somewhat neutral. And at 17th frame, we should actually bend this arm a bit further and rotate the hands accordingly. Oops, not scaling, although we can do it, but not now. So there we are. This is kind of a natural sway of the hands, especially for people like this, big frames. Many times you see it. The arms are from the bottom view. The arms are like drawing a cycle in a 3D space. All right, so that's what we are doing now, and see it. And what else? Of course, we want to replicate the whole thing, and we want to go back. So at 17, this is where we are, and at 25, this is the back way, and the back way may be a little bit different. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to do the same thing back and forth. Right now, what I will do is I will rotate this backwards and select the arm and open this up, just like having a little bit of a back sway. Okay, just pulling a little bit back. So what that means, the figure is actually just snapping out the arms. So let me play this. And there's a little bit of a forced movement as the figure is just on purpose dropping back the arm. All right. Now to have a better view on this, we want to go back to the first keyframe, copy the whole stuff. So now these 3 points of the link, Ctrl C, and paste the thing in here, Ctrl V. to match that. So now it's working normally. It's going back. Maybe it's too much of a rotation in the back. Yes, I see it as it's too much. Okay, so we don't need that much of a forced rotation. So what happens if we have something like this? Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, let me press Ctrl C and Ctrl V it here. So let me play this now. Yes, exactly. That's what I was walking. Yeah. Okay, so great. Now, what else? We want to copy this to the opposite side. So Ctrl C and Ctrl C, select all. And the first time when this hand is doing that is at 17. So Ctrl Shift and V to the opposite. That's great. We need the passing pose. So Ctrl C, the passing pose. I don't have to switch because I'm just Ctrl Shift and V to the opposite. So that passing is happening at 25 for that arm. So Ctrl Shift and V for that one. And we have the back way, and that is a little bit of a difference here because as it's going back it sways a little bit different. So let me just play this. Okay, it's moving because I was copying that pose. It's moving a little bit in different structures. So let me give it a back, going back. So this one is the front pose I have to select. Which was the front pose? This one, Ctrl C, and here it is. Yep, Ctrl Shift and V. This is the front pose. Great. Going back, and as we are going back, this hand, as this hand is traveling back, we need the other key. Okay, there we are. Now this is a time when this is going back, so that's a particular frame when we're going back, which was great. And 25, it's going forward, so we need a forward going passing pose, and the forward going passing pose is here. So at 25 we are using this forward going passing pose on the opposite side. Ctrl Shift and V. That correct. And then it is going back to the 33, which one is the position of this moment. And Ctrl Shift and V. That's it. Okay, so now if we play this, we have the same walks type. Okay, looks nice. What else? Of course, we can play with the head. So let me go to the front viewport, and the head should compensate with the position. So at first we are somewhat straightforward. At 9, the head should rotate slightly, and at 17 is going back to normal, and at 25 we're going back again. We're just trying to compensate. We want to maintain the level, and Alt R ups and just reset instead of Alt R. Just make sure that we are using the right rotation. Okay, that's great. Now what else? Of course we can use the upper body, so let me play this. Yeah, the way the figure feels a normal type of walk. Okay, to make it more attractive, we can play on this rotation. So this is our first contact pose, and this should be a little bit rotated. Slight rotation. I'm looking for the values. Maybe start rotating and holding down shift, and just 5 degrees is enough. Or 4. That's nice. At 9, this is the passing pose. We should be, let me go to the front viewport, we should be back in the normal angle. So holding and starting and using the shift key to accurately going back to the 4. Okay, elevating, that's right. And then at 17 we have the other direction, so going back again, start rotating and holding down the shift key. Yeah, that's 4 degrees. Okay, at 25 we can actually copy the original one, but we can just go back holding down the shift key and just make it by manually. That's fine. And here we have again a slight rotation, so going back in rotation and holding down the shift key and dialing down. That's perfect. Alright, there we are. So now we have another rotation that goes with it. Okay, let me hide the rig. So the figure walks out. There's a natural kind of rotation going on. What else we can do? The belly, if we look at the bottom, so the figure walks in a normal way. The arms are swinging normally, but what do we care about the belly is, as the belly could be rotated in an interesting way. But first, let me help the arms a little bit, but because when they are really pushed against the body, they should move a little bit different. So let me turn on arm tweaks for the animation. So let me go to the front viewport and look for the passing poses. So here's our passing pose, and yeah, okay. So where we can benefit from using the tweaks, when the body is pushing, so I'm looking for this particular control. So when the body is pushing against itself, then this should be a little bit out. So when the body is passing, that should be at a normal position. So let me Alt G. Alright, so as it pushes, we have a little bit of a difference. Then it's going there. 17 is already in, so we have to animate it and add on it. So this is a kind of a natural, kind of a muscle type of movement. Same thing here. At 25, the arm is passing. Great. Right, Alt G to reset. This is our passing. And then at 33, we're pushing out a little bit more because it's just pressed against the body. Alright, so let me play this now. And there's a kind of a natural movement of the volume. Alright, what we can animate by using the tweaks. So even if you don't have any muscles or other options, special sets, you can use the tweaks for this type of trickery. You can actually create the sense of mass and sway in the mass and the muscles. All right, let me stop and look for the belly. We need a control to help with the look as the figure walks. So here we are. This is the hip, and I'm not sure that this hip control can help. But we will see. Let me go and look for torso tweaks. Here's the torso tweak. If it rotates with the local mode, local mode already to be shown. That's it. Now, yep, a slight swing, a slight difference, or with this, it has not enough control. But here, no, it's if I'm rotating this one, that will be enough. Okay, so at first, this is pulled out. Okay, how much is it? It's about 4 degrees. Great, so the hips are rotating, the belly is a little bit rotating. At 9, this is the passing pose where we should go back. So I'm in the front and we should go back to normal. Go back to normal. Then at 17, this is the other pose where we are just rotating slightly. Okay, so rotating and then going back. Correct. And then again a little bit to the opposite direction. Sorry. Yes, here we are. So now as the figure walks, the belly is also rotating a little bit. And that adds more sense of the whole thing. All right, so basically that is kind of a simple walk with various adjustments to make. So regarding the arm movement, the shoulder movement, the head positioning, and as well the legs, and also the other parts around the hips. You can fine-tune so many things. If you want to make it more character specific, the biggest changes that you can make is you can actually save your file and just focus on mostly about changing up the passing poses. Okay, so right now I'm just saving this file, and just to give you an idea, so you can select this, for example, and just pull this in, and then the figure pushes in, and at 25 it pushes in back again, and then it goes back. So now we have a little bit of a difference in the walk. Okay, so when you are animating things like that, start with the torso and make sure that the torso is affected, the orientation of the torso, the position of the torso on the passing poses can add a lot. All right, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed and have fun. See you next time. Goodbye.